Hi guys, my name is Paballo Diaho, otherwise known as Coach Pubs. So I'm a financial planner and I'm also a wealth specialist. So interesting story. The reason I became a financial planner is because the financial planning found me, not the other way around. I don't think anyone grows up saying that I want to be a financial planner. But I guess life has shown me in sales that we need to put people first. And the financial planning expert with that has shown me that this is a career and it's not a job. So I've found to take love in what I do, and yeah, that's basically me.
Hello everyone, welcome to Connect HR Hangouts. It's your favorite host, Babi Mawela. We are back with yet another banging episode. Thank you for your engagement in the previous episode. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. We love and appreciate you. If you are new here, this is the podcast where we bring the human back in human resources. House rules: like, comment, share, and subscribe, and click on the notification button so that every time we upload an episode, you receive a notification. Today is a little bit awkward because I'm with another Babi. Hi, Babs.
Hi, Babi.
How are you doing?
I'm good, and you?
I'm good.
Awesome.
Nice to have you here. We've been having a lot of females, so it's nice to have some male energy in studio.
Yes.
Yeah, Babs, so you've introduced yourself, I know, but so that you introduce yourself while, I have you here, just maybe touch a bit on yourself. Let our audience know who Babi is, or Paballo is.
Yes. So thanks for the intro. My name is Paballo Diaho, otherwise known as Coach Pubs, and my intros are the same all the time. So I'm a wealth specialist first, and then second to that, I'm a financial planner.
Okay.
All right. I've been doing what I'm doing now for a decade. I'm actually celebrating 10 years this year.
Well done, Pubs.
So, yeah, and I'm all about education, right? Teaching. I find that advice should be common knowledge, but it's not common anymore. So that's why we have to just take things a little bit back so that we can proceed when we're speaking about advice, right? A little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Soweto, Pimville. Then my mother, she's a nurse, so I guess there comes a point where she felt like she has to leave Soweto. So yeah, and then so we grew up in Alberton. And yeah, so I grew up in Alberton, obviously went to school there. Yeah, that's my upbringing. Interesting story is that I actually studied sports management.
Yeah.
Right? So after school, when I studied sports management, obviously that industry didn't go well for me. But insurance found me.
Okay.
Right? So obviously I had an insurance internship, and the love of selling started or stemmed from there. And yeah, I find myself almost 12 years later in this position.
Love it for you, Pubs. And
Thank you, Pabi.
People are probably asking themselves, we are an HR podcast, so what has financial planning have to do with this? So let's help them maybe tie the two together. So our topic today is the importance of financial wellness as an employee. Because I think finances are a huge topic in the workplace in South Africa. So this is why we have you here. So please explain, as though you're explaining to a 3-year-old, what financial planning is.
All right, cool. So financial planning, or I like to rename it and say financial literacy.
Yes.
Is something that we all need in the workplace, individually, wherever you find yourself, you need financial literacy. because financial literacy has made a lot of people make a lot of mistakes, and that obviously then impacts your working environment. You know, it's got a direct correlation between, you know, how you handle your finances and how it actually impacts your work, right?
Got you.
So, yeah, so it's just about people having more information and more understanding around the topic of finances and how personal finances have such an impact on your wellness as an individual, you know? So, I mean, like I said, I'm a will specialist first.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people make the mistakes of doing everything else before actually drafting a will, right? So I'm not here to convince anyone to draft a will. We need to talk, but but it's just mainly about the information that comes around the will.
Yeah.
You know, you start with your will, and then the financial planning follows. You know,
I hear you.
Yeah. So that's basically what I'm here basically to talk about, and I found that especially when it comes to the will, there's not a lot of education, right? So, like I said, I'm here to teach. I'm here to educate people. You know, financial advisors have a stigma. You know, that what the police.
It's a king. I'm sitting here and I'm like, yo, I'm having flashbacks.
Yes, and how many times do they call you?
Yeah,
a lot of times, right? But I guess it's just a matter of pairing up or finding the person for you, and then sticking with that person, you know, obviously throughout your whole journey, right? So yeah, so the problems that we are facing, right, and it also impacts the workplace, is that a lot of people think that, you know, there's a pension fund, right? I'm just using an example. Yeah. There's a pension fund. So obviously at work, there was a nomination form which said that should anything happen to me and I pass away, these people are my beneficiaries, right? The issue comes in now if a beneficiary is a minor child, right? So when monies are going to a minor child, where does it actually go to, you know? So typically people think, no, the child will have a trust, and it's not the case. The money actually goes to the government guardians fund.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so, and when your money is at the government guardians fund, anyone and everyone can have access to that money, right? So it's only through a will whereby we open up a trust for a minor child, right? So a lot of people, those are some of the things that we come across whereby, you know, a lady at work chose not to do a will, but, you know, her child is going to inherit, you know. So typically if I drafted a will, that money would come to us. We would then obviously open the trust for the minor child, and then obviously things would go smoothly.
So I'm a mother, right? And I want to know, what are the things to take into consideration when going into the process of drafting a will? And I'm asking this question because you can understand in the workplace, there are mothers, there are fathers, there are brothers and sisters, so that's why I'm asking.
Thanks for the answers. The question. So basically some of the things to consider, right, when drafting a will is that you'd need to, so when we're going through the will process, firstly you need to understand that it takes a year to wind up in a estate, right? Okay. So the family that you're leaving behind won't have your income for a year, all right? Second to that, when we're looking at drafting of the will, we need to also think about who's going to be taking care of my children. So an interesting stat, which I found quite scary, is that there's 5 million single moms in South Africa. And that's a documented stat, right? So just take out the father of the child, you know, 5 million single moms in South Africa, right? So that's a high number, right? And that's when now we start thinking that when we say single mother, we mean that you've got children, right? So some of the things that you need to consider when drafting a will, firstly, is who's going to take care of your child should anything happen to you and you pass away, right? Secondly, you know, obviously the financial planning around it. So what are you actually leaving your child, you know? the things that happen or the things that we see in my industry is sad, right? Because you leave your child typically a house, because you've worked so hard.
Yeah.
You've left your child a house, right? But remember, they're a minor child. So what's going to happen to that house, right? So the right process, if you have a will, is that we have to transfer that property into a trust, into the child's trust.
Okay.
And then obviously when the child is of age, that's when he can get the title deed or his inheritance in asset form, right? But the sad part about this conversation that we're having now is that, for a trust firstly to be opened, it's money. For a title deed name to change is money. So that we're speaking about legal fees, So I think there's a lot of things to consider why you'd need to draft a will. But I also wanted to just touch base on the issues that we have when we're winding up estates. All right. So there's a 6-step process that happens. Okay. And in the 6-step process, when we're winding up at the estate, this happens whether or not you have a will.
Okay.
Right. So number one is SARS. So obviously SARS will do their last SARS calculation. They'll do an estate duty calculation, and they'll also do a capital gains calculation, right? So that's basically tax, all right? So tax needs to be payable. The second part is debt. So debt doesn't go with you in the grave, right? So if you've got a clothing account, a car, credit card, whatever debt you've accumulated, should anything happen to you and you pass away, that debt has to be paid from your estate.
Okay.
Right? So, so that's point number 2. So normally with debts, you look at life cover, the credit cards have, policies that should anything happen to you, the clothing account, should anything happen to you, that's paid up, right? Number 3 is the legal fees. So we call it costs of dying. But the legal fees are something that we always get stuck at.
Okay.
Because there's no money when we're winding up estates, all right? Like I mentioned now, to open up a trust for a minor child, to transfer property from your name into your child's name, there's executive fees to be paid. So, and there's a whole lot more. I mean, we advertise your death in the government gazette, we pay the masters of high court. So, for an average person that is working, I don't know what average is, but for the average person to wind up in a estate could be anything from 200K and up, right?
Yeah.
But now you've left your child a house, and obviously life happens. We don't know when that's going to happen, but by the time your child gets his inheritance, we either had to sell your car to pay for legal fees, or some people, it's so drastic that we have to actually sell the asset that they were trying to leave because, there's things like living expenses, rates and taxes, So it's important to do financial planning properly, right? But starting with the will, and then we come with the financial planning, because that then makes, you a better employee, for your workplace.
Yeah.
Especially when you know that you've got peace of mind, and that's that. So, but that's legal fees, right? That's step number 3. Step number 4 is things like court orders. So if you're paying spousal maintenance, child maintenance, we consider that when we're winding up your estate. Number 5 is actually quite a tricky one, but a lot of people are having more information around this. It's traditionally married.
Okay.
Obviously, if you're married, then that's good, thumbs up. But if you're married in community of property, then should anything happen to you, you automatically know that 50% of your estate is your spouse's, right? But now, when you're traditionally married, meaning lobola, or they came back, they left 2,000 rand saying, hey, Buffett, I'm coming back, to do the right thing. Should anything happen to you, that basically means that you are married in community of property. Right, so that's obviously customary marriage, which is recognized in South Africa. So the marriage part gets people because they don't actually understand that just because I've been lobolad, I'm actually leaving 50% to my spouse, right? Whether you've broken up or you haven't broken up, it's just one of those things that affect the financial planning or the will. All right, so we have to look at the will, which is the marriage, which is step number 5, And then we look at actually how do you want to draft your will? Who are you giving your inheritance to, your assets to, or who you want to inherit from you, and how? So, do you want to give your child a house, your other child a car, the monies that you're going to leave for them in trust? How do you actually plan, your absence?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that's the touchy topic. So that's just basically, obviously, the importance of drafting or having the will. But whether or not you have a will or not, these are the same steps that happen.
Sure.
Yeah.
This is news, or some of it is news to me, and I'm like, okay, this is a very important conversation that we're having. And you spoke about the stigma about financial planners and will brokers. What are the misconceptions about insurance that have to do with individuals, and how can people think differently about taking out insurance for themselves or their loved ones?
Yeah. So that's a very important question. I think the stigma will always be a stigma. Insurance people do call 100 times a day. We are sales driven.
Yeah.
We do need the sale.
Yeah.
But I think financial planning is different from insurance in general.
Okay.
We're not necessarily trying to get you a cheaper policy than what you're currently paying because of all the competition out there. But what people need to take from a financial planner, especially a financial planner that cares about them, is the human element. We're all human, and the financial planning is so important. In one's life, but we treat it like it's another task to do, a task that you don't want to do. So, but having peace of mind, I think, supersedes not having proper insurance, And when I say proper insurance, I'm not just advocating for life cover. I'm even advocating for, planning for the future, a basic thing for saving for 6 months. We call it an emergency fund. A lot of people that I come across don't even have that, so which actually is telling me or showing me that our financial literacy is still backwards. We need to start saving, of course, but just taking the time to sit down and actually planning what could possibly go wrong. Right? There's 2 guarantees in life. We're all gonna pay tax. The second one is that we're all gonna pass away. So that's where the financial planning element comes in, and I'm quite passionate in what I do because I think the stigma needs to go more or less on a thing of like what I experience when someone passes away. I've had the privilege to wind up 8 estates. So that basically means 8 of my clients have passed on, right? And there's so much that happens behind the scenes that actually meets the eye. We sell. If you've got a luxurious car and your daughter's in matric, and you've just passed away, typically would sell the car, buy an affordable car or a decent car, a starter pack for your daughter, and rather use that money to take you to varsity.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
That's okay.
So that's where the thinking of financial planning, we should be taking it, because that's what we actually do. When we have our AGMs, we're making sure that your child is taken care of, your spouse is taken care of, they don't have to worry about things like medical aid rates and taxes. We factor all of that in our financial planning. So that's basically what the stigma I think people should get rid of and actually try put themselves in a position whereby should anything happen today, there's a scary stat. It's not a scary stat, but if you look it up, almost 600 to 700 people die every year in South Africa.
Sure.
Right? So I don't know where the probability comes in, but, if it's not, and the biggest killer, actually, sorry, just to come back, the biggest killer of in South Africa is illness. So things like your diabetes, your cancers, your strokes, your heart attacks, that's the biggest killer in South Africa. So taking out a policy that covers for dread disease, because chances are, if your mother had a stroke, chances are you'd also have a stroke. So we need to understand holistic financial planning and, I guess take it from there.
Okay. You're sharing a lot of knowledge that we feel that is very valid. And my follow-up question would then be, what kind of insurance would you recommend to employees, young employees? Because I feel that the young generation, I could be wrong, we don't take insurance or any sort of financial literacy seriously, but maybe you can share some insights on what kind of insurance would work or you would recommend rather for the youth.
All right, so I love the question because I think that's where my heart is because of the financial literacy, right? So the first thing is savings. So, I learned this the hard way, but just putting away money can set the rest of your life apart, right? So obviously I'm taking a young professional, or let's not even take a young professional, let's take someone that is earning 10,000 Rand, right? If that person that's earning 10,000 Rand can put away 1,000 Rand for 5 years, right? Firstly, they'll create a habit of saving. And secondly, after 5 years, they could have some form of a start up with that money, right? 1,000 times 12 is 12,000. 12,000 times 5 years, that is 60,000. 60,000 plus an average interest of about 8%. That 60,000 can easily get you to about 75,000 Rand, right? That's after 5 years, right? And young people are going into yes, I understand that we all have issues and we've all got goals.
Yeah.
Let me use the word goals, and we aspire to leave home, but the leaving home part, it becomes a problem if you're using all your salary towards living expenses. That means that you're not technically not saving. So the first thing I would basically say is put away money, all right? Second to that, I would say have a policy that buries you, first and foremost, but also have a policy for accidents. Remember, we are young. We're always going out, we're always traveling. So, and people at large are obviously depending on your road accident fund, but that shouldn't be the case. If you've got a policy and it's got a disability cover on there, should anything happen to you and you're impaired, you can't go to work anymore because you were involved in an accident, there's a lump sum amount of money that gets paid out. All right? So those are the type of policies that you should be looking at having.
Yeah.
The third to that would be income protection. So something that's actually protecting your income. In the event, again, something happens, you can't work, there's a maternity benefit. So obviously, if you fall pregnant, there's a payout there in terms of income protection. So, so it's basically holistic. But my first 3 or 4 would definitely be savings, put away as much as possible. I was telling an upcoming doctor, I was actually telling him that, Chief, if you have to stay at home for 5 years and save 10,000 Rand a month, remember they earn way more than that. But if you had to just save 10,000 Rand after 5 years, we're not speaking 10 years, after 5 years, you would have 750,000 Rand, right? So that's a good deposit for a bond. That's a good deposit for whatever you aspire to have in life, but you've created a safety net and you've created a habit of putting away money. So putting away money would be number 1. Number 2 would be having income protection or a policy that protects you against life happening to you.
Yeah.
And definitely some inheritance to like a life cover with a disability cover, funeral cover, So those are my top 3 for the youth.
Sure. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing. And I'm also interested, what is the general feel of the people that you are firstly educating about these, the information that you're sharing with us? Secondly, are people taking up more insurance in your observation of late?
Yeah, so obviously after COVID, COVID taught us that life is short.
Life is short.
Whether you are young, you are old, and the financial impact that happens when a loved one has passed on, it puts you in a position of discomfort, right? A lot of us are struggling simply because a parent passed on.
Yeah.
You know, or a lot of us are struggling simply because I had to grow up with my aunt's children, that's a lack of financial planning, So the general feel is that I think people are getting educated. People are definitely taking out policies. But my issue or my problem is the financial literacy part, the having the ability to put money away, There's retirement that we have to start thinking about. There's emergencies that we have to start thinking about, because if an emergency happens and you don't have an emergency fund,
yep,
where do you go? You go and take a loan, a micro loan, a credit card. Those things stick with you forever, My personal one is that, I was trying to pay off way in the beginning of financial planning. I was trying to pay off a credit card for about 5 years,
Sure.
I pay the credit card and then immediately after I use the money. You know what I mean? So that's not, but if I had emergency savings, then none of that would have happened. But because after you've saved, after you have emergency savings, then you can actually start investing, diversifying your pool of investments. That's where all this passive income comes in, having having multiple sources of income, that's investment. But without having enough savings and enough financial literacy, it's hard for you to have those in a way that you want to. Most people work 2 jobs, not because they have a choice.
Yeah.
But people that have good investment knowledge or good savings, good financial literacy, they're doing that with peace of mind and ease, So, that's the general feel out there.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for that, Pabs. And I know you to be a fitness bunny.
Yes,
so
yes.
Let's touch on just employee wellness overall. How important is it to stay fit as a young or an old working adult?
Yeah, I do cycling. I love being active. I run. I used to play touch rugby. I used to play sports, obviously, while growing up. I used to be an athlete. So obviously, the keeping financially fit, which could be as well, but keeping fit, it stimulates the mind, right? When the mind is stimulated, everything else flows.
True.
Right? So we need to keep active in a sense that, there's a book I'm reading, and they're speaking about how being fit or having regular exercise, helps you in all spaces, in your life. So that'll obviously be work. It'll be a relationship. It'll be spiritual if you're spiritually aligned. So just having, general fitness helps you as an individual, and you don't get tired at work, whereby you're sleeping now after lunch.
After that pub.
Yes, after that pub. So. Yeah, man. So I think being active is quite important for us in general, but it's very important to understand why you're doing something. A lot of us are lazy, and once the body is lazy, the mind is lazy,
True.
you know, and the productivity. So, yeah, that's basically what it is.
I love how you answered that. And what advice do you have for our viewers? Most of them are unemployed youth. What kept you going? What drives you? What keeps you as passionate as you are?
Yeah. So basically, what I would say, right, is that, you know, obviously we speak about it passing, you know, pande. You know, we need to hustle, especially if you're unemployed. You create spaces. You know, obviously there's TikTok. People are selling everything. And anything called TikTok, you know.
True.
So you need to get into the selling space if you don't work. You need to hustle, you know. Things like doing hair and nails, things like doing grooming, you know, could lead to something so big, you know. Just the ability to be able to cut someone's hair could get your ointment on, you know, the shelves of the supermarkets, simply because you're taking pride in what you're doing. You know, the reality of the matter is that there's no more jobs out there. Well, there's no more jobs that you would like to do, so you need to be creative, you know. And yeah, that's basically it. But what fuels me and drives me is the ability to educate people in the space that I do. I love people. I love speaking to people. I love helping them with their situationships, and guiding and making them feel at ease, have peace of mind that it's all going to be okay. So yeah, that's pretty much it on my side.
Thank you, Pabs. Where do people find you on social media?
All right, cool. So people can find me at Paballo Diaho, just my name. That's on LinkedIn, Facebook, and then Coach Pubs on Instagram, TikTok.
All right, ladies and gents, awesome. That was my beato, Paballo Diaho. He told you where you can find him. I told you every time we drop an episode, we educate you, we come with new information. Some of it you do know, but I can tell you maybe some of it you didn't know. But please comment in the comment section and let us know what you loved about this episode. See you next time. It's your sizzling host, Babi Mawela. Stay blessed.